So just a quick question here. Were we going to be doing a Zoom meeting with Vernon at the hall, or reason why I ask is because I know there were some people asking for a Zoom invite or a Zoom link to join the meeting today. Oh, okay.
Okay,
I know,
so
well, Francis Aldo's asking, he was asking also about the Zoom link.
okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. We've got the Kootenai Cultural Committee. So is Vernon on here? Danielle, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
I was wondering if, oh, there he is. He's coming on right now, Vernon. All right, thank you.
Okay. And I have August left hand and Jerry Nikolai here on mine. They're watching from here.
If you guys want to, you can come up to the table right here so you can see everybody. You're more than welcome. Good afternoon, Vernon.
Good afternoon. How is everyone?
Good.
All right. Okay, so let's see. Do we have, I don't see most of the folks. Dad's old iPhone, that must be Tom, huh?
Yeah, it looks like we have a few connecting too. Vernon,
Yeah.
Mike is coming on.
Okay. Do you have walk-ins there in the chambers as well?
There's a couple in the audience. We invited them up to the table, but they're too bashful. So I guess I'll go ahead. Vernon, I guess there's 4 things that council wanted to discuss today, and I'd like to start with any issues or topics that KCC would like to discuss or give an update on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, let's see. We've had a few meetings since we started discussing having meetings, elders with the council. And a few of the topics that have come up have kind of been centered around I guess we'll start with the most major one, which was about the resources, the natural resources that and the protection of it. All of the elders, and in fact all of the community, in fact, and even on our field trips with forestry, etc., we come across a lot of non-members out on tribal lands, and one of the things and I see from recent Facebook activity and other activity that you guys have been hit with the topic as well already. But the major concern among the elders that was out with the on the field trips was about the protection of our resources, and many of the suggestions that came forward were like the permits should cover specific areas and only for a limited amount of time, not $20 for the whole year for the whole reservation, but and things like that, and that certain areas be closed off to tribal members and their families, which I know sometimes we travel up into the Lozo primitive area, and there are non-members throughout that, traveling throughout that whole area. And of particular concern is the off-road use with the four-wheelers and the dirt bikes. And they see the signs and they just neglect them. The other concern is about the amount of trash that is left after groups gather and bring after the groups gather and have their little gathering, then usually have to go and pick up their trash afterwards. And then, and the other part being, suggestion being that, specific uses, some of our land is being used for non-member businesses. There's a guy right south of us, between us and Big Arm, who gets a recreation permit, and then he uses four-wheelers and and leases and has, rents to people, and tells them to go ahead and go up to the tribal land area, up in the urban area. So it's, there's things like that that are particularly troubling. There's a gentleman that, and I know he gets a permit, but it's also a private business where he does horseback riding, and you can see the numerous trailers that they pull into up there by the jetty, by what used to be called the corrals there at the jetty, and they take the trail rides in there, and the horse rides isn't so much of an issue, but it's just that it's a private business, and he's making these businesses that are making money off of tribal land. Realtors advertise it that way as well, that you have these thousands of acres of access for wilderness access for a mediocre recreation use permit fee. So most of the discussion has kind of centered around that, the protection of the lake and the water and the natural resources, and preserving it for the membership. Now, if I have forgotten anything on any of that, if any of the elders would like to chime in, that would be great. I was just summarizing what came up in the recent meetings. As far as an update goes, well, somebody wants to think about chiming in. As far as an update goes, we have scheduled the Huckleberry Camp up at Peat Creek Campground, which is at the north end of the Yak drainage. We have that scheduled for this coming weekend. It starts on Thursday to Monday. Now, they called the Kootenai National Forest this morning, and so we've still got the reservations, and it's still open as of this time. So our camp is on so far, and we was afraid that perhaps the fire restrictions might boot us out, but it looks like the camp is still a go. So let's see. Francis, did you hear my little summary of the concerns that had come up in the recent elders meetings? And if you have anything, or if any of them, Nada, Levi, Lawrence, Diane, any of you have anything to add to it?
Yes, I do. With the reservation open to non-members, that hinders our cultural practices. You can't understand the way you live unless you live it every day. And you can't go anywhere without non-members. And that you leave the woods or wherever you go, hurting, because like you were saying, the trash, people come and look at you like you're the stranger here. We were camped up at Lone Pine, and those guys in four wheels would come and look at the campground, and it was like, who are you? What are you doing here? That's got to quit. Our elders, our folks, they give up a lot for what we have. Died, many hardships, and we just can't open it. We got to close it down like it used to be and only have certain areas that they could go. Thank you.
Thank you, Levi. Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the council and distinguished elders. Thank you for joining us today. I'm glad you guys brought this up, and I ask that you continue to engage council on this issue until we do something about it, until we get something done, because we've been having some good discussion and talking about all of the complaints that we've been receiving from the tribal members, not only up north, but down south, up into down into Jocko. They have the same problems. You know what? The out-of-staters are here, and you know, we need to address that. We've had some good discussion with our NRD staff. We've asked Tom McDonald and Dan McClure to put together a plan for us that would include an increased fee schedule, identifying certain areas for just non-member use, and then also including 10 additional game wardens on staff to patrol. I mean, if we get at least 10 more, then we're able to patrol not only the rivers but the lake. But right now, as I understand it, as we understand it, at any given time, we only have 3 game wardens on staff. I mean, out there, out in the field, and as many of you know, at this time of the year in the springtime, they're dealing with the bear problems. And so, which leaves them very little time to address those issues that we have with non-members destroying our natural resources. And because many of you know, many of them are out there without a permit. They're gonna continue to be without a permit till they get caught. And that's just the way it is. But I just want to let all the elders know that there is a plan that's going to be coming for council's consideration here soon, and we're going to implement it. And those were the three issues that were discussed in this plan. So just wanted to let you all know. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Yeah, this is Francis. Sounds like a topic that Vernon's kind of reiterating from the last elders meeting. I think one of the highlight discussions that in that part was the open recreation. So in that plan that you're talking about, Leonard, I hope that you guys are looking at strengthening that policy so that when it's implemented on these people that trespass, that they won't come into our courts and laugh their way out the door. Because that's what's happening right now. Even if we have only three fish and game officers, they'll do that and they'll basically laugh in our face. So I think those people that are going to look at doing this plan over is that they need to strengthen the policy, increase the fish and game law and order component to it, and the cultural committee needs to also step up too to give the council continual update at certain pieces of land that we do not want any non-members trespassing. It is significant for people to use these pieces of land, and we don't want that to happen. Hey.
Thank you, Francis. So I guess I'm looking at also the point that at one time we talked about making the Lozo area like South Fork. Was that part of it as well, Lynn? Do you remember? There's too much public access. Okay. Go ahead.
Hello?
Turn on your mic there. I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Yeah, Vernon?
Oh, just a minute, Mike.
Is it on? Hmm?
Yeah, mine is on.
Okay. My question was, I thought it was a part of the primitive area. When did it come out of? Yeah.
It is a part of the primitive area. It's just got different restrictions because of what the membership up there wanted
Mhm.
for logging and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That isn't true. Remember when we wanted it to be closed off, forestry come in and said that they had active forced harvest developments in that area, and that there was a throughway going through the primitive area. And it was our own departments that challenged us on making it a true primitive area like the Jocko. But because there was timber in there that they wanted to harvest before we actually closed it off.
Thank you, Lawrence. Go ahead, Sharmil.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I had also requested from Natural Resources Department, or I was asking, I guess, in general, if we could get an overall report of that management area, because I'm understanding that there are some particular details about the Lozo management area that I think we all have to, you know, kind of put it out there and understand together and figure out what can we do better or differently than when we went on that field trip out there to look at the dam out there. And then we went and looked at the diversion structures and so forth. There were people coming in and out that were Suyapi, and we talked about, you know, that's when I was kind of curious, like I did think it was a primitive area as well. And I'm starting to get a different understanding of it as more of a management area, not technically primitive. And so what I recall somebody telling me recently is there's also those public access right-of-ways and easements that are existing there, which makes it a little more difficult to manage as a primitive area like we'd like to. So I'm hoping that the elders can help us review that, the cultural preservation, natural resources, that forestry and whomever, that we can have a holistic review of that and figure out like, how can we better manage it then? And definitely, I always got I was always with the understanding that it was intended to be more of a primitive use area. So I think we need to figure out what can we do to make that more so. And then, you know, with regard to what Francis said about getting updates on other areas, I really look forward to that. I think that we're in a place where we need to better define those areas and, you know, whether they're, what type of use areas should they be? Tribal member only, and what type of use areas? Overnight camping, yes, no, you know, all of the above. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Sharmil. Did you have something, Mike?
Yeah, back to, I guess, recreational vehicles that are on the reservation, and just maybe tying in with if we're gonna get any more tribal game wardens out there. I always see them in the area that Vernon was mentioning right there at the as you go up over Elmo View there, and the first turnout that goes back up into urban there. every morning because I drive that road every morning. And you see about 3, 4, maybe up to 5 recreational vehicles there, and him out there giving them instructions. Well, I don't know what kind of instructions he's giving them. I've never stopped. But I think anywhere on the reservation here, yeah, they are a private business buying and selling these recreational vehicles. But I think if they're going to be out there with their recreational vehicles, that we should have a tribal member with them so that we know where they're going. That guy can sit there and sell the vehicle, rent out the vehicle. What is he telling them? None of us know what they're telling them. So if we could get, they wouldn't even, I don't even think would even have to be a tribal game warden, but some kind of a guide to make sure that they're staying within the boundaries. On the roads, I guess you might say, where they're going. And I don't know where they're going, if they're off-roading up there or what. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any other comments?
Yeah, well, this is kind of a good segue into the other topic, which is related. The other concern that a lot of folks expressed was about the right-of-way accesses. We have, on the north end, we have seen access across private land that was there with county rights-of-way and that with other rights-of-way that have been closed off and closed off to us, and we have to go now to go right up on the hill above us up here above Elmo. It's to have a decent road to get up there. It takes you an hour to go all the way around through the Browns Meadow Road up that way back to get back up to Hog Heaven. And the roads, the rights of way that were there that people have used forever, our parents and grandparents and everybody used those rights of way. The non-members have been allowed to close them off, and the ones going up to Irvin, those property owners close those things off. But yet when the tribe wants to close something off, then we're told that we can't do that because it's a historical road or because it has been in use for a certain amount of time. And you know, that it's a one-way street. It's a one-way street against us. And so I think that that was another issue that legal should be involved in is in our, if it's all right for them to close off our rights, our easements, our rights of way, then we should also close off theirs. I know of some that down in, for example, down towards Melita, where they cross tribal land, and those rights of way, that there has never been an easement established. And so, you know, and places like that, that isn't the only place on the reservation. There are many other places that are under the similar thing where the tribe has maintained and left them open. And then on others that were used primarily by tribal members, the county has went ahead and let them go ahead and close them off and even remove the roads completely. So so that is something that was the next issue as far as out on our tribal lands that the people were concerned about. And in the previous issue, one of the suggestions that came out during the discussions was also about, you know, well, we've had all of these these emergency hires for door monitors. And now that the door monitors aren't there, they should be some gate attendants. Some of the things that, one of the things that came up was about the way the fire season is going now as well, that we should, the council needs to consider closing off just closing off the tribal land for all non-member use, and leave it at that. That was one of the suggestions. But the rights of way was the next topic that important topic that came up during the discussions as well.
Do you have something, Carol?
I just wanted to say, I believe that they need to be closed too, and I think the reason to close is that it's the impact on the resource. And to me, it's just being destroyed, and it's hard to recover from the kind of use that's going on out there. And so I think there has to be a little bit of planning done before we just close it down, but I think the sooner the better. And I believe if they allowed us to do permits, we were the ones that asked and we were allowed. So I think we can also close it down if we feel that there's a circumstance where there's a detriment to the resource. And so that's why I think that it needs to be done sooner rather than later. And I don't know about the lake, but I know all of the mountain lakes and everything that's getting just decimated due to the fact of use, so much use.
I got a comment,
Go ahead, Mike.
and it just goes back to, I guess, some of these roads that have been closed off. I know when I was on council too, that we wanted to look back on how some of these roads are getting closed off. And we have people coming in from out of state buying property. And then that's how a lot of our roads are getting cut off. The elders already said that them roads were already access to the tribal members way before these people were moved in here. I think if there's a way we can close them, there sure in hell should be a way we can open them back up. We had a member come in, or not a member, but a non-member, non-tribal member from anywhere move into the jetty area and wanted to close off a road that I know my hunters still use today. Goes from Rocky Point back over to Highway 93. And just because they got a road there, they came in and asked if they could put up a fence through there. I think Carol and some of them that were on council back then, just a reminder of what I told them is that you guys come in here and ask to put up a fence. And then the next following year or two, you come in there and ask if we can just block off the road. And that's how we're losing a lot of our roads, because we're allowing them to do it. We got to quit giving in to them. We've lost a lot of our hunting areas because we let them in. We got to quit letting them in and start putting our foot down for our children, our grandchildren, so they'll have something left. Quit giving up everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any other comments or issues?
No.
So as a follow-up, I'd kind of like to hear, I know that these issues come forward not only from the elders, comes forward to council, but from a lot of folks. And so if we could kind of, whenever action or discussion takes place in council, if you could, let us know what the discussion, where the direction is going and everything, and or of any actions that were taken, that would be greatly appreciated. You could just let me know, and I can distribute it through the elders of what is being done with some of these issues. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Verna.
Jerry has something to say. Go ahead.
In terms of reservation use, I don't see any policies or procedures that are aggressive enough in terms of the policies and procedures that come out, and that not addressing the sovereignty issues, and that we have to be more aggressive in all of our dealing with our properties and our rights. And we're not doing that. We change one policy for another, and then everything gets lost. Again, stick to one policy and make it very aggressive to the non-tribal member. The tribe's got to be more aggressive now. This is our land. We can't be giving it away. Hey,
On that Black Lake Road, why don't we just dredge it? And let all the tribal members know it's not gonna be in use for a while. Because they're not letting us through their property anyway.
Thank you, Lawrence. Go ahead, Francis.
I'm sorry I lost all track of topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did you girls have something?
May I speak a minute?
Go ahead, Levi.
Charmel was talking about she'd like to know some specific areas that are known as cultural sites and so forth. This whole reservation pretty much is got relatives buried all over the place. Some in the Big Draw. They're that's why it sickens me to see all them guys going any place they want, And like I say again, you don't know what a cultural way of life is unless you live it. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Junior.
Yes, since we're talking about cultural land, I want this former Kathy Hamel allotment that was purchased a while back. This is very cultural, to a lot of us, and I want that land protected.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Vernon, any other updates or issues?
Okay, yeah, that was the primary concerns when I mentioned to the elders about it. And then there are, the only other thing that came up was, and we're in the stages of planning some community meetings for discussion, was was the expansion of, the Kootenai Culture Committee offices are spread throughout 3 buildings. And in long range, what we would like to do is to have all together in a space that meets the community needs, as well as the Culture Committee needs, language preservation efforts needs, and as these projects continue to grow, would also respond to to the need as we advance. You know, we have a small group of apprentices that are learning the language, that are getting better as we're going along, and as we identify more and more, and we're able to expand it more and more, that we would, we want to think of the facilities that would kind of take that into consideration for future use. I've started that discussion with Rick and Ryan, and that's that's something that is on the radar. So I think that they'll be coming forward to see council about possibly an RFP to help us to facilitate that planning process, so we have a greater long-range plan for meeting our community's needs. But aside from that, that was pretty much the discussions that have been taking place, aside from, like I said, some of the smaller issues. And then, but before we switch back to the agenda, I wanted to thank you, Anita, for when we looked at the agenda, it looked like our item was going to be at the end of at the tail end of the meeting, and I really appreciate you moving it forward so the elders could be heard first. So thank you very much. That's very much appreciated.
Thank you. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda was a resolution that we thought that the elders would like to discuss, to signify the tribe's desire and commitment to fully integrating traditional cultural values and languages into daily lives or individuals within the reservation, consistent within the tribe's mission and vision. I don't know if you had a comment about that, or if Rick wanted to talk about it.
Madam Chair, I can just say that I don't have anything specific to say other than the kind of spirit of that, as I hope I captured it in the language from council's discussion, was to, and I think it was mentioned earlier, you don't know what culture means if you're not living it, and that was kind of the intent of that resolution, is to give us direction to make that true for more people, and it was left open so that people who are here that aren't a part of the tribe still recognize as part of their daily lives that they do live on a reservation, and there is a difference because of that.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Charmel, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rick, was that resolution provided to the Culture Committee and the elders?
Councilman McGillen, yes, it was. Well, it was provided to Vernon. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. I assume it made its way out. But I do know one of the council's intentions was to have that as part of an ongoing part of these council to elders committee meetings, just kind of as a bedrock of these consultations. So if the group hasn't had a chance to look at it, I think we'll just make sure it stays on the agenda going forward.
Yeah, we received that this morning and sent it out. And I don't know how much of the elders group was able to review any part of it, but kind of a summary was kind of what Rick was saying, and what the focus of it was to kind of get input from all of you, from all of the elders as we move forward with making sure that the business that is conducted and the things that are going on the reservation throughout the departments and throughout the government is happening with input and with consideration of the cultural values and languages that are here on the reservation. So that was basically the summary of what that resolution was about. And so, and if I didn't include part of it in their council, please speak up if I didn't grasp the full nature of that. But so the elders, that's kind of what that's what I got out of the resolution. And so it's kind of a continuation of council reaching out to have meetings such as this one, where the elders are able to provide input directly into the tribal government as far as what has taken place, and make sure that the cultural values and languages are respected in what's being done. So.
Okay, thank you, Vernon. So it'll be an ongoing effort here to keep talking about this throughout the meetings. The other issue we had was Secretary, oops, go ahead, Lawrence.
Yeah, before we go on to the next issue, I have some concerns about this resolution. You know, about every 5 to 7 years, we get a resolution on integrating our culture and our language, and nothing's ever followed up on it. We're doing another resolution, but yet the principles of how this resolution is going to be implemented is not going to be attached to it. We're going to be looking at it again. So we adopt a resolution and nothing comes of it. You know, why don't we get the solutions on how we're going to implement the resolutions attached to this? That way we'll all know that it's going to be implemented, because it's going to cost money. We know it is, because we're going to have some kind of process in getting the language more adapted into our working lives, our social lives, everything of that sort. And so I would like to see that we're mandated to, all of us mandated to take 1 hour of Salish or Kootenai at least a week, and not make it voluntary. Even the non-members that are working with us learn how to speak Kootenai or Salish. Those types of things that'll make it worth it. So, because, you know, writing a piece of paper is easy. Implementing it is what we're going to be needing.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Lawrence. You're absolutely right. We do need to come up with a plan, and I think that was one of the primary reasons why we are reaching out to the elders program, so we could get input from. We need input from you guys to tell us how to do this, how to move forward with implementing this resolution, because we don't know. That's just it. That's why we need to reach out to both elders committees and give us direction, give us better direction. But I just wanted to also add that, you know, council has had 2 strategic planning sessions here within the last month, and we've been discussing on identifying our priorities in regards to our strategic plan. And we just wanted to acknowledge to the both culture committees that culture and language will always be one of our top priorities as we move forward. You know, just to assure you all that you know, although the you know, we're in a changing world all the time, but we need to stay focused and remember who we are. And I think it's really important that we have these kind of discussions with the elders, and I'm glad that we're starting to do them once a month. I mean, I see the big difference on how we're operating now that we're started this plan. So, But anyway, Lawrence, you're absolutely right. And I hope we can come up with a precise plan on how to move forward with implementing this. So,
Thank you, Lynn.
Yep,
Go
thank you.
ahead, Carol.
Oh, I thought I seen Charmel raise her hand. I just wanted to say, you know, in the past, there was resolutions passed and it fell by the wayside. But I don't think this time, I don't believe that's going to happen here. I think there is a very, very good plan on moving forward. But we do need the people's input. We keep hearing from the membership that we don't give them an opportunity. Well, this is going to be the opportunity. And what I see is that now people are going to be put in place that will guide each resolution along to develop a plan. And I think there has been a lot of discussion up here by council on a broad number of issues. And there's already ideas out there, but it's not just 10 people's idea. It has to come from the membership. So when we build these committees and put our thoughts down on paper, then we will get it out to the membership to hear. And I understand there is money available. No longer is money not available. It's going to be available to do these things and bring them forward. So that's always been the issue before. We've always had these unfunded mandates. Today, we hear that we've figured it out on how we're going to do it. And so I think we're in a prime time to be able to move on a lot of these issues and get things done. And to me, right now, I just feel like I'm a ball and I just want to get moving fast, but then I know you can't just do it. You got to make sure you have everybody's input into it and slow down enough to make sure we're doing it right. I mean, this government has never really moved fast on a lot of the issues because it's always been money. Well, there's probably still money issues, but it's not as bleak as we think it is. So I think it's just going to take time. And I think we got to trust the administrator that we put in place to do it and his staff, along with all of us. It's not just going to be 10 or just the administrative staff. It's going to be all of us. So if you're interested in it, definitely you can be involved. So that's where I'm at with it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Carol. Go ahead, Charmel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lawrence, I appreciate fully what you're saying, and I think we all do. When you read through the resolution, it's really pointing back to all of the written words from a long time ago that have been emphasizing the importance of our traditional values, that it's a part of our mission, it's a part of our vision. And I know that Vernon, as former chairman of our tribes, you are especially, you've been at the table where, you know, those priorities were emphasized and requested from work plans. And when I recall hearing about those priorities and how we wanted them to be written into work plans, it seemed like the struggle that we always run into is how do we make that action come to a reality? And Lawrence, that's what I hear you saying, you know, like we have these over and over again, and it's true, we're taking another run at it. Fortunately, we have some funding now that we can allocate, but the other thing that is really imperative, I think, to recognize is that we need you as elders to advise us. And we need to rely on your advice regularly. So I hope that there's time to go through this resolution more carefully with you, and maybe now should be the time. But when I look at the resolution and the language of it, our vision states that the traditional values, that those would be embedded in the many ways that we do things. That's what our tribe's vision says. And when you get down to the fourth whereas in this resolution, we're asking that this be integrated into daily consideration. So when we talked about that language in this resolution, what we were trying to articulate, as far as I can recall, is we want this, the whole of this organization, the tribal government, all of the operations and the plans and the policies and everything, to consider these traditional values and cultural values on a daily basis, that we would have daily consideration of the values, of the language, of the importance of all of that. And I know that that's what the previous councils have been saying as well. So yeah, we're going at it again in another way to say, how can we get this into our daily operation, our daily thought process? And that idea of, you know, requiring language classes and having language more present in our daily operations, definitely. That is something I was gonna try to impart a Kootenai word, and that's how afraid I am of doing that, you know? It's just like, am I gonna say it right? It's so uncomfortable. It shouldn't be that uncomfortable. And, but we need to support one another, because that's where we have to go with this in our daily consideration. The other parts that I wanted to say in this resolution that I think we need to, this council and you as elders, and our culture committee directors really need to keep our hands on these statements in this resolution that says that, you know, we're directing available staff and resources to facilitate the defining of cultural values, teaching of the native languages, and the integration of both of those things into the daily lives of our reservation residents. So we're even saying not just the Skelliqaq, not just the people of the land, but everybody here, you know, they're a part of this reservation community. We want to figure out how to facilitate the integration of those teachings into this whole body on our reservation. Everybody should appreciate the fact that this is our land, we are the people, and we need to elevate that. And then the be it resolved says that we authorize and direct, so authorize and direct the executive officer in coordination with the culture committees to direct available staff and resources to accomplish these objectives. So I really hope that you see this as the keys, you know, like, let's open this door together and let's figure out, with your advice and with all of the best advice that we can to funnel into our department personnel. I think we have the ability to bring everything up to another level that'll serve us much greater in a better way. And, you know, whether it's starting with getting a new facility to house everybody, to we need to fund languages, language teaching and resources, definitely a lot more. We've been hearing this forever, you know, we need to put our money where our mouth is. And our mouth is always saying, we want to elevate the values of our tribal people. And so I think this is really a good opportunity. I really hope that we're going to be successful, and we're going to be successful the more we can hear directly from all of you. So thank you for being with us to keep pushing us, and we'll keep moving. Husukul Kukni.
Thank you, Shamel. And I think there's a question. Is it Jerry that's in with Danielle?
Oh, I realize, and I hope everyone else realizes, that we are on one reservation. But you have to consider, we don't all live in one township, one community, or one household. Each individual's time, resources, and travel is different. So if we have to travel to one area or another and we have no way to do it, you know, we need help in that area. this is why all these reservation programs are good for the program as a whole, but they don't look at the individual that has to do the stuff that whoever wants done. So we need help in that area. Hey,
You
And
know,
Nita,
oh, excuse me.
Go ahead, Levi.
Uh,
And then Vernon.
You know, the cultural way of life used to be truth, honesty, and respect. That's where it's got to start from. And that is important in the Indian way of life. Thank you.
yeah, Anita, it's
Yeah,
Francis.
go ahead, Francis. I thought it was Vernon. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a chance to look at this resolution, and you know, it's kind of a sadly component because it seems like for the Kootenays, the Xunca, you know, our tongue's been ripped from our mouth, and we have no more voice. That's the feeling that I personally get. Uh, we can have all the good sounding resolutions and all the good sounding council representatives, but when an individual wants to make something that makes sense, they get put down or put back in a, I refer to, they get put back on the reservation. But anyway, when I was looking at this resolution and seeing how it was cut and pasted from a lot of things, and everything that I see has to be times two, because you got the Flathead Indian influences and you have the Kootenai Indian influences. You got two languages that you have to deal with. So then you're looking at, and that brought question to me about when I visited this organizational chart, and I was kind of disappointed to see where the two cultural committees were kind of moved way down to the tribal resource management group. So then if something that the advisory group as elders, if they bring something forward, it has to go through Vernon, has to go through the tribal resource director, then it reaches the executive director before it even reaches our tribal body of council. So by that time, it's already lost interest in what's going on. So I would suggest that the cultural committees, because of this resolution and the many aspects that it's going to bring forward, be tied, that these two committees be tied closer to the executive officer's component and back on the organizational chart. I'd hate to see a good idea get lost in the fumble of bureaucracy as it proceeds down the line here. So if the language is that important, your culture is that important, your tradition is that important, I would like to see that reconsidered. Just to share a short little story, you know, that young man, I'm looking at that Martin Charlo representative. I sat with his grandfather, the old man, down there in Evero. That old man used to bring my mom, when he was married to Helen, used to bring my mom to their ceremonial doings down there. We went there and danced. And that old man, he'd speak his languages. Little Martin was just a little kid. I think we all changed his diapers during that time because we were all dancing and singing and pretty tired. But anyway, there was Salish language being spoken there, and there was Kootenai language being spoken there. Louis Kaya would come there. Tony Mathias would come there. And there was no difference on how we see some of the changes elevate and work, and there. Vernon's going to have to stay up 24/7, and he needs a nice operational building to be able to do that. And he's got plenty of good grounds around here. I hope he makes good plans that he does. And another thing, just another suggestion is, you know, we have airwaves here. You guys should look into maybe a radio where you're going to put your language out there in the air. If somebody can't make it to point A, from point A to point B, they can turn their radio on and listen to some language or something. But anyway, that's my little twist on the resolution here. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Mhm. Carol?
Oh, I think it was because I was shaking my head. Martin told me to speak up. Um, You know, I think the original reason why this discussion even came up is because of where the culture committees were placed on the organizational chart. That's what I remember. And there was discussion about why have they been moved down under a department. And so then it became my understanding is that they've elevated this meeting to a council meeting once a month. So we would be able to have a discussion with them and hear from them directly. So when you say your chain of command that you're going through is not totally accurate, we always refer to the elders committee and try to go to the elders directly rather than have somebody else report back. Vernon is kind of the interpreter and will tell us what the elders' intent is after he's met with them. So as far as I can see, none of that's going to change. Just so there's clarification, unless council, I've got it wrong. That's my understanding of what's going to continue to happen. I don't plan on putting elders on the back seat of any of our meetings or any of our discussions. So that's where it's at that I know, Francis.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, so Vernon, one of the questions the chairwoman had was what the cultural committees felt about Secretary, her boarding school initiative and how CSKT should proceed. And I don't know if you've had a chance to talk with the elders about their feelings.
No, we have the elders meeting scheduled for tomorrow. And so that'll be one of the topics that will be in discussion, will be about the boarding school initiatives that have come forward. You know, one of the things that will be a big surprise is if there is a Catholic boarding school in this country that doesn't have unidentified, unmarked children's graves on their grounds. That would be a tremendous surprise to me. And so as we move forward with all of this, I think that, our input into all of it would be to kind of to make sure that that it stays as a topic of discussion. I went to boarding schools myself in the first few years of school, and so went to the Ursulines. And so I think moving forward with this, you know, we got to kind of keep our finger on the pulse of what is going on with it, with the secretary, and kind of be fluid with our response to what is happening going forward. I know that we have requested in the past, I know one of the departments at SKC had the ground sensing technology where they could locate and identify graves. And we was planning on using it because there are some forgotten and unmarked graves in our local cemeteries and so we was wanting to use that in order to locate those spots, before all of this started to come out with the boarding schools. But my understanding is that there are many there on the grounds down there around the longhouse, around the church there, that have already been identified as unmarked graves. And so we just got to kind of see how, keep our finger, like I said, keep our finger on the pulse of it as we move forward. But I will have a fuller discussion with my elders group at tomorrow's meeting.
Thank you, Vernon. So we can revisit that as well later then. The other thing, I think we've covered a few of these, but the incorporating of traditional values and principles into our workplace. And I think Lawrence kind of talked about that and hit on that as well, but what should it really look like? That's another question that we had. That was for you, Vernon, or the elders, if anybody had any comments.
Well, I thought that when the elders would have further comments with that, I think it was kind of some of the issues kind of addressed in the previous discussion, but we can, if anyone has anything to add to it. I do want to say though that as far as, there's, make sure, as long as we make sure that the considerations of both languages and cultures are always taken into consideration, because it's not a one size fits all thing. Some things that really fit well with, for example, with what the Salish Culture Committee is doing and what their language programs are doing, wouldn't work for us, and vice versa, so as long as, we keep that in mind. The other thing, along those same lines, there are many students of the Salish language that are moving out there, that are moving forward, that are in fact teaching, and without got to say this sensitively, without fully understanding the language itself and our teaching parts of it. I sat with Salish elders at the Salish conference and listened to some of the young presenters there as they did their keynotes and presentations in the Salish language. And I was so impressed with it. And I asked the elders I was sitting with, what they thought of that. And I was just thought, wow, isn't that great? And the response was, well, I can kind of figure out what they're trying to say, and so even though it sounded very impressive to me and very impressive out there in public, the actual understanding from a highly fluent speaker, was a lot different. And they don't discourage that. They don't discourage that at all. They encourage all of them to try and to get out there. Our elders, our highly fluent elders, have always been kind of the opposite mindset, where they say, you do it accurately and you do it correctly and you do it, using the Kootenai mind as you bring your language forward, and so So like I said, with our apprentices, I have every bit of confidence in a few of them that are progressing really, really well. And so as we move this forward, we're going to, the number of resources and the number of folks that are available to go out there and to do other things, such as meetings with schools and meetings with other departments and all of that, and doing language things and all of that with, for example, we have requests from early childhood, for example, for Kootenai teachers, and we don't have the Kootenai teachers who are ready to teach it to that level in an accurate way that the elders wanted it in the first place. So the situations are both different between the two languages. So as we move forward, sometimes something that sounds like such a great idea as put Kootenai language in all of the departments, that task would detract us from where we need to be with the language, which is working on getting some fluent speakers prepared today. And we just have very few of them. And so our focus needs to be on progressing those few along to the best of their ability and as far as we can, and not be detracted by being stormed by a bunch of requests from about other things that may or may not have relevance to the Kootenai culture. When a department requests something, rather than saying how from a Kootenai cultural perspective, how is this concept perceived and what would we say about it? That isn't the request. The request always comes in the form of, how would you say this in Kootenai? And the words that are being used are from an English language Western perspective. And so it makes the translation and everything double difficult, and makes it, for a lot of those things, the response of the highly fluent speakers would be, we wouldn't say that. It's not culturally appropriate. We wouldn't say that, so just that type of a thing happens. And so rather than being flooded with all kinds of, mandating all of the departments to request language from us, and then detracting us from our main focus of building speakers, it would be
It
better
don't work.
to consider both of them, to consider both perspectives and how and where we're
Just
at.
play it in there, and if anybody asks, you say you're getting money.
I'm getting paid for this.
She's not bad.
Chrissy, you need to mute your
You're
mic.
right, and I have to get something on my legs so I don't talk in Spanish.
Mute your phone,
Make sure you
Christy.
lock it.
Anita, I would like to comment if I can have a chance.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't think we need to transmitting our language onto our younger generations. Tribes all over the United States are doing it, and they know they have to. The only way we're going to live on is through our culture and languages. And I just think you guys have the wrong Kootenai cultural director. And I said it and I'll say it again. He doesn't have the vision or the forward thinking to be able to realize that we have language that can be put out on the computer in the least cost-effective way, to where our youth can not only learn the language sufficiently enough to teach and conduct their teaching in age-appropriate manners, but we can teach, not only will they learn the language, but we can also teach them to teach, and we can do it quickly and cost-effectively. You just have the wrong people at the table, so I totally disagree with much of what Kootenai Cultural Director is saying. This needs to happen. I really appreciate that you guys are revisiting this through this new resolution. And I think if you allow the community to sit and form a committee and bring you our idea of how we will effectively transmit our language to our youth by a certain date, I truly believe we can do this. And it won't take any big expensive building. Although I do want to see us construct a more appropriate building so that we can someday house our artifacts as well. But don't always just listen to a select few people. Try to reach out to all of us. And I'm only standing in for my mom. She is wanting you guys to know that she thinks you guys are stepping in the right direction. She fully approves of you guys mandating this new resolution to reinforce all the previous resolutions. And we certainly know that it will be easy to incorporate our culture and language and all our values, mores, and customs, traditions. We can bring that into all facets of our tribal enterprise, and it can be done so easily. This is the day, and it doesn't have to be this complicated thing that some make it out to be. Might be complicated for them. They don't see the vision, but talk to some of us others, and we know it can be done. And thank you. And that's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Lois. Go ahead, Sharmil.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, with respect to the issue at hand, the language program and the discussion here, I think, we definitely need some guidance here. We need to, just speaking from my own standpoint, maybe I shouldn't be saying we, I'm just one of 10, right? So I would appreciate being able to, I'm really reacting to what Francis said earlier, that their tongue has been ripped from them and that the Sanka has no voice. And I don't want that to be the last word, right? That has to be changed. If that's how the Sanka people feel things are going with regard to support or no support or not enough support for language program or other aspects of keeping Sanka culture where it needs to be, and the people there you've overcome so many obstacles and odds, I should say, that I think it's doable. So we need to figure out, how do we understand your need? How do we support it? And where do we go from here? When Vernon, you were talking about the Salish language conference, and I'm thinking about all the different dialects of all of the Salish speaking nations. And even here on the reservation, when you're learning the Salish language, if you learn from a Salish speaker versus a Clispe speaker, they're always telling you, no, that's not how you would say that or whatever. And so you get into the Salish language conference, and how many more dialects are we listening to? I have no understanding of that really, but makes me wonder, is that the Tanaha Nation? Are there different dialects in the Tanaha Nation's way of speaking? And so those are things that I'm not sure how that would help inform us in how we support the language program. But there's also that language ordinance that was put out some time ago, and I need to dig that back out and read it again. But if that isn't serving the need for the Sanka language program, then hopefully the elders as a council, as an advisory council, can work together to help us do the right thing. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Vernon? If not, we'll look forward to next month's meeting and some of the questions that have been asked and maybe some more comments coming forward and some ideas about how to keep this idea going. I
Yes,
like the idea about language every day for an hour, but go ahead, Vernon.
yeah, some of the folks have requested, and so the language apprentices, we make sure that it's accurate what they put forward, but they're doing a word of the day. If you haven't noticed it already check out the Culture Committee Facebook page, and they do a word of the day. And, you know, and we are making progress with the language. And so we have, and I've expressed with all of you before about where we are with it and how difficult it is and the plan for moving forward. And the speakers are progressing. And I'm just incredibly hopeful with some of this group that we have that are showing such promise. So, with that, getting back to the boarding school subject, we'd like to. I think that some of the elders have the firsthand experience of the boarding school experience, and so I'm looking forward to that discussion tomorrow, and we'll see what comes out of it, and so we can bring some good information forward for all of you. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Anita,
you, Vernon. Francis?
Anita?
Yes, go ahead.
Francis, yeah, Chair, I just want to pass on a resolution that was done back in, way back in 2000, I think. It's resolution 00-19. So as you're reviewing your resolution, Charmel, maybe you can dig that one out too and then see how that can mesh together. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have some?
No.
Okay.
Hello?
Okay, there, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been kind of driving, keeping contact with what you guys are saying, but I had a comment on a completely different subject here. And it has to do with the elders. I had some elder, they're all taken care of, but it's just the length of time that it took to get things done and moving forward with them. We got it all done. But in the meantime, I had a coworker of mine. She is a descendant from this tribe, but she had called elders program. She actually called the elders program while I was sitting in the vehicle. And I know Carol has heard me mention this a few times about a checkoff list to whomever the call is from, who it went to, what time was the phone call made. She called her about a week or two later again, and our elders head department had the gall to say, "Oh, I have never talked to you." Well, I was listening in while she was on the phone the first time. It's really I guess I almost wanted to come in there and say, well, we talk about elders abuse. That's what elders abuse is there when you ignore them. So it really bothered me that we have our head department saying, no, you didn't talk to me when I sat in and listen to our conversation on both phone calls. That's not right. I'd still like to see a checkoff list from the head departments and including council when you get a phone call. What did we talk about? Then it goes into an issue of, well, are we going to be able to do anything when it starts to end? When it's done, then you can cross it off your list. I've made phone calls and I know that they're sitting there saying, oh yeah, we can do this and we'll do that. But are they writing it down? And then when it comes up, the next phone call I make, was anything done about this? Oh no, I didn't do anything. Well, a checkoff list for yourselves and our head departments and everybody behind them when they take a phone call. Because it's really embarrassing to have a elder be sitting there and be lied to about, oh, you didn't make no phone call. So that's just a comment I'd like to make and see something happening, a little bit holding our employees
Okay, thank you, Mike.
accountable.
Would you address the dashboard for us?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Madam Chair, you're asking for me to talk about the dashboard that we're working on. Thanks. I couldn't agree. First, I'll say I couldn't agree more with you, Mike, about the frustration that I think is real and understood when those situations happen. And we've done since the reorganization over the past month, started to put in place exactly the thing that you're talking about. We're still trying to find a good way to capture those circumstances that don't rise up to the level of coming either to administrative level or council, which your situation that you described didn't. But we're working on putting together something that's exactly like that, the council understands that that managers throughout the organization can have more insight into how timely we're responding and what those interactions did or didn't lead to. I think it's a good suggestion, and we are working to put that into place. In the meantime, just for anybody listening, there's no harm in sharing those concerns with the council or with anybody, including myself, because the more we know, the better our fix can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you for the comment, Mike. I think that we all need to be reminded sometimes that they're not being listened to, and it is wrong. So thank you.
Yeah, and then, I guess just a little education for the membership on what they have to utilize. A lot of our, I guess I'll say a lot of our elderly membership don't really know what is accessible to them. And it goes back to when I was on council and we had an elder from Camas Prairie in the hospital, and they were driving back and forth, and he was in ICU. They were driving back and forth from Camas Prairie to Missoula, back and forth. I happened to go there to visit somebody else, and I seen them and I asked them what they were doing. And they said that the old time the male was in ICU. So I asked them if they were driving back and forth from Camas Prairie to Missoula, and they said, yeah. I said, okay, when you go home tonight, you go home and you pack up. There'll be a room here for you when you get back. And that's not coming out of my pocket. That's coming out of our council funding that you as the tribal membership have to be able to utilize. They didn't have a clue about that. He made it through the first time when he was in ICU, but it's just I don't know how you go about it, but just educating our membership what they have to use. And then kind of, I guess, being careful because we have people that want to use different programs and then end up ruining it for the people that really need it. And I'll say it, we have people out there utilizing programs here that kind of, not to say that they don't need it, but they go in and let's say when we get them rooms and they end up tearing up the rooms or raising heck with the rooms and stuff. And then people behind them that really do need these things are in jeopardy of all that. So thank you, Madam Chair and Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Drive safe. Okay. Vernon, we're about 10 minutes over, but if there's any closing remarks or comments?
Yes, I want to thank all of you for taking this time and for actually, making these kinds of meetings happen, and the concern, of the organizational chart changes, and reaching out to the elders program directly and having monthly meetings with the elders, and as this is the first of many, and so I wanted to thank you guys for having this because it went a little smoother than I thought, because as these whenever you're asking for input from voices that feel like they haven't been heard in the past, you're liable to hear stomping and stomping on your toes and screaming at you before they actually get to some of the issues, and you have to kind of filter through a lot of that in order to get down to what the real issue is. And so this went really smooth, and I'm really glad that you provided the opportunity for my elders group to bring some concerns forward. And I really look forward to the future relationship. And as we go forward, it's gonna get smoother and smoother. And as the communication improves, with the folks you have in place in between us, I think you guys have made some good choices, and we're gonna really, make some progress with this. So I really appreciate all of you for taking the time out of your meetings to include the elders. You're putting your money where your mouth is, and it's not just saying the words culture is important. You're actually taking the time to listen to the folks that are living it. So thank you very much.
Okay, and thank you, Vernon. And I'd like to thank everybody who participated today as well. And I look forward to visiting with you all next month. Okay, so next up we got tribal lands. Does anyone need a 5 hour or 5 hour? A 5 minute break? Yeah. Sorry, Mark, that was it. Do we need a 5 minute break here? All right, I gotta run to the bathroom. I wonder. Jen? Jen, is there a way of stopping live streaming just for a minute?